Hello and welcome to Stampscapes Friday Night Live. We're going to be doing, if I can get around to it, 5 different versions of kind of a foundational composition here just to talk about and to illustrate just different types of staging within landscapes, because landscapes are kind of the ultimate, I don't know, kind of malleable, kind of emotional tone foundations for visuals out there, and you can really give kind of different types of context to your scenes just depending on what you stamp within the scenes and different colors you can apply. And then we'll play around with some different surfaces as well, and we'll talk about kind of the usages of that. It's endless, really. You can probably come up with, 1,000 different versions of a foundation. I'm going to be working around the meadow large, sedge filler down here just to fill in this blank area down here at the bottom, and these trees right here. Okay, let's see here. I was just doing some different things with my software here. Let me see, where did the comments go? Here we go. Okay, so 3 different surfaces here. I'll be working with some semi-gloss cardstock, and then I have the vintage style of paper. It's just a cheap text paper here, really thin. It's really meant to go through your printers. And then just for fun, we'll use a piece of printable holographic vinyl sticker paper. All right, now this is printable vinyl sticker paper. Okay, it's not holographic cardstock, so we are able to apply water-based media to this type of surface because it's designed to go through your inkjet printer, which uses water-based inkjet inks. I didn't know those were water-based, but found out about it when I started playing around with these papers here. Okay, so let's talk about some different emotional tones here. I'm going to go into, let's see, this one right here, and we'll just do a real light and airy scene. I just stamped these out, so hopefully I don't get too much blurring here from some wet inks. I did heat set these, so that should be sufficient, but we'll see about that. Hello in Oregon. Sheila, how are you? Like I said, Sheila, you kind of crack me up with how fast you picked up everything like seemingly instantly in terms of the techniques. I sent you an IM. Like I said, my words are, my word is, they say use your words. Well, my words are kind of all convoluted right now. I'm in a visual mode right now with designing and things like that. I don't know, it uses like a completely different hemisphere of the brain or something like that. That's why when I used to go in between new batches of design releases, if it was like, sometimes it was years in between new designs. It took me like I don't know, like 9 months to get back into the designing mode. That's why I'm trying to just, while I'm in the design mode, I'm just trying to crank out all these designs that I've been thinking about for years now and just get them before I kind of lose it. Okay, so let's see. Okay, let me go ahead and stamp this girl out. I'm going to do this one like a real light and airy scene, kind of wildflowers in the spring type of thing. And I have this this figure here, not quite reclining, but, I don't know, whatever sitting figure here of this girl. And let's see, I'll just heat set her before I apply my inks. I can do it all in colored pencils too or something like that, but I just re-inked my black ink pad, so it's pretty juicy. All right, now she's a little bit large for this, for the imagery in here, but the whole point of this video here is just trying to give it context, just showing that you can use pretty much any type of foundation scenery, but it just depends what you put in there, what colors you use in terms of kind of manipulating and steering the emotional type of context of the theme of your piece. That note that I wrote to you, Sheila, gave me this idea of this video. So anyway, All right, so she's in there. You can see it. She's kind of like shiny. So let's get her heat set here. I feel like I've been heat setting inks more over this last, I don't know, couple months than I have like in, I don't know, whatever, 20, 30 years. All right, let's get coloring. Okay, let's just do, I don't know, let's lay down some dyes, and then I'll get into some colored pencils. I'm going to try to do these ones really fast here because we have a lot of these scenes to go. So 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Hello, Bill. How are you? Catherine, good to see you. Hello, Cynthia. All right. So, all right. Let's put her. Okay, now here's one of those things with staging. Okay. So one of the best kind of bits of advice that I had when I was in school, it wasn't even a lesson or something like that by our teacher. I don't think. I think he was just talking to someone kind of walking around as we were all working. But he talked about seeing your cards, or or in those days like paintings or drawings, as a stage. Okay, and the thing about trying to capture nature, I mean, that's one thing. I mean, you're definitely, when you're stamping nature, oftentimes we're referencing nature. It doesn't have to be, though. We could be stamping things on, holographic cardstocks or something like that, like, like this one right here. And that's really fun. But oftentimes, in scenic stamping, yeah, we are trying to kind of reference nature somewhat, and to create kind of, I wouldn't say photo real pieces or something like that, but there's certain things with lighting, and I certainly reference lighting, natural lighting, directional lighting. We have moonlight coming in from one area, or sunlight or something like that. And that's fine, but if you're kind of thinking about your pieces more in terms of a stage, it really opens up dramatic possibilities, because you can really direct your viewer's eye, much like a director or a lighting director, whatever, on a stage production. Okay, you can have more than one light. You can have a spotlight to really emphasize, where you want your viewer to look. You're directing your viewer's eye wherever you want it to go through different colored lights, de-emphasized lights, colored light, mixed lighting, whatever, on a stage. Okay, so with something like her, now if I had something in the distance or something like that was like another deer or something like that, and I wanted it to stand out, then I wouldn't make it so dark. It would have like these two areas of light. So I'm kind of putting a spotlight on her, so that our viewer, the viewer's eye would go to her naturally, just because she's a person, or if you have an animal or something like that in an open space, your eye is just going to go straight to it, wander around, and probably wind up back on them. But you can really emphasize that more with this type of lighting on, or within your pieces. Okay. All right, let's see here. That was some peel paint. And again, I'm working on a semi-gloss cardstock, so let's use some colored pencils as well, I think. Let's go in here like this and give it a little bit more richness by having multiple tones like that. Okay, and this is where I can do some kind of smoothing out of my applications if they're kind of clunky, with a slightly more absorbent paper, that grabs liquid inks faster. Hope everyone had a great week. Friday sure seems to roll around fast for me. I don't know about all of you, but it's like, man, it's already whatever, trash day again, or, you know, Friday Night Live day again. It feels like it's really flying along for some reason. I mean, that's what they always say, right? But I don't know. It seems like extra so lately for me. I don't know. I don't know about for all of you. Okay, so adding her in here. I don't want to go too dark, you know, on this one. Oftentimes I go pretty dark in my pieces, in the shadow areas especially, sometimes on a vignette, because I want my lighter areas to seem lighter by contrast. So anyway, yeah, Sheila, I'm excited about them too. I was telling someone, or did I post it? See, I can't talk or think. I was saying I thought I had about 2 sets worth of designs. And then when I started going back, I go back, I kind of work on my designs. I start drawing them, then I scan them in, and I do a lot of fine tuning on them, kind of at high resolution, you know, and I blow things up like 500% so I can really get in the details and add in some really detailed marks. And I hadn't even looked at, you know, the number of designs, because it seems like, I don't know, the ones that I did like 2 weeks before, it's like, you know, that feels like, you know, like, I don't know. When I get into that mode, it feels like I did it months ago, so I kind of forgot about some. And then when I started just going through all of the different designs and looking at them, I was thinking, I don't know, this looks like more, I don't think this isn't going to fit on 2 plates. And then it was like, okay, this design here, I think I want it in 2 sizes, because, you know, what if, you know, this figure is you know, it's ideal to be looking out from, you know, right to left. But then what if puts, you know, someone does a different composition, which happens to me in the past. It's like, oh, I wish I had, you know, this figure in this other kind of direction. A lot of times in the past I did the second size of design. I did it in the same configuration, you know, if they're looking in a certain direction. Where now it's like, okay, you know, it took me like years to figure this out because I'm a really slow learner, but okay, if we're doing it in a smaller size or something like that, or in multiple sizes, if it's a figure and if it's, you know, they're not, you know, kind of symmetrical, just flip it, you know, horizontally, and, you know, so we can have multiple looks based on the configuration of our scenes. I like to have my figures kind of looking into a scene, you know, be it from left to right or right to left. I always say that unless someone's doing a book or something like that, where you do things where you compel people to flip the page, you know, so you might have a figure on this side kind of looking out that way. All right, so that is kind of the foundation right there. Let's keep it light and airy. Let me see if I have my cloud cumulus stamp around here. I do. What's the weather like for everyone? We had some rain here in San Diego last night, and a little bit, well, I guess it was in the wee hours, so it was officially today, but I was thinking, hey, it sounds like it's raining, you know? I mean, it's not for everyone that was kind of involved, but it seems like those fires, you know, in the Pacific Palisades and Altadena, you know, up in the LA area, it seemed like they was a long time ago. We've had a couple kind of small storms come through since then, but it's like, oh my gosh, you know, where were those storms, like, you know, going back to, you know, chances are it wouldn't have been so bad if we had some of these storms coming through starting in November. It's never like really rainy in November or October, But just like a couple kind of isolated, small storms here or there. But it's like we didn't have anything, so those fires were really bad. All right, just kind of a medium light tone blue here for my billowy clouds for that extra kind of emphasis on, whatever thematic expression. You can contrast things too. You can have something like down below real light and airy and, in this case, like full of wildflowers, and you can do like a ominous storm up in the sky or something like that. Just, you know what I mean? For, just to provide some kind of interesting contrast. Maybe it would emphasize both even more so by having something real ominous looking in the background and having looking, something so, light and airy in context on the bottom. But we'll just keep things in context right here, thematically, or in kind of the spirit of each other. I'll do this right here. I'll do these clouds like this too. I was going to do it like this and just fill that area in, but I thought, oh, this little opening in here might be kind of nice to kind of put a little bit more of a light on the figure. I'll go back in and I'll add some foreground into these pieces, but I'll do that all at the same time after I get these foundations made. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so we have that kind of varied area down here. Now, one of the things I didn't kind of mention here, I don't think, but one of my little things that I do when I'm doing grass, I always throw in some sort of brown. So I just use the kind of a medium warm brown tone here. Let me see, this is a sienna brown. This is the one that I do if I'm using dye basting. So if I put all just greens into a grass area, I always find that it doesn't look right to me. So I always add in brown of some sort. So if you had something like, I keep going back to this all the time because distress inks have so many different variations of really good browns. But if you do, old paper might be a little bit too light, but antique linen and maybe the walnut stain, for the shadow areas or something like that. Walnut stain, I don't know, most of the times it's kind of light, but it can be a little bit dark. It depends on what you put it over. That's the walnut stain right there. It looks like it's a really dark brown, but it really isn't, It's like that right there, which is, it's like the same thing as this pencil right here. I don't know. They don't do great labeling, but these two don't look, especially that kind of darker area right there. I've never achieved that kind of darkness right there. But if you put it in these places like this, see, it looks a little bit more earthy and kind of natural looking to me. All right, let's see. I'm going to have some overhanging tree limbs up here, so I probably shouldn't put in some colored pencil light blue in there because that waxy surface is probably going to resist the dye-based inks that I stamp over the top of it. So let's just go for a little bit of dye ink in there. You don't have to, but it'll fill the clouds out a little bit better. You had snow for 2 days. Wow. Does it snow a lot out there on the coast, Sheila? All 4 seasons in one day. Snow, snow, and more snow to follow. I forgot who it was, but when we were sitting around in your store teaching workshops, yeah, a couple of your customers were talking. I'm talking to the Hodgkins in Maine, but they were like, yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's not like all the time, but they said it wasn't like too out of the ordinary. But it was like I don't know, like a week-long power outage out there in that winter, whenever I was out there 20 years ago. But it was like, I don't know, it was like the year before or something like that. You guys had like a big power outage. But I always remember that. It's like, okay, uh, I'm never going to complain about the weather again. After my trip to Maine. And they were just talking like matter of fact. Yeah, I said, does that happen a lot? I think they said something like no, but you know, it's not completely out of the ordinary. At least in that area. I'm not one to complain about the weather anyway, but you know, when you're out here in Southern California, you know, you're not going to complain about it. You might say, hey, it's kind of cold, but I don't see that as like really complaining. California might complain about the weather if you're in like Death Valley and it like gets up to 130 though, maybe. But if you're out there, you kind of know what you're getting into. But there's a little bit more extremes these days. All right, so we have our little figure like that. Let's add in kind of that. That sets a certain tone right there, but you know, your kind of additional touches that you can put in, I feel, really kind of set a great mood. Sorry about not having these prepped right here beforehand. Let's do something like those types of colors right there. I'll just go fairly large just to kind of really emphasize the spirit of it. Then I'm going to add in some white pigment ink in here, and we'll see how kind of airy it becomes. And from an emotional, visual perspective, we'll see what it looks like. It's been hot here today, 9 degrees. Yeah. It's today 35, huh? Harold likes to scoop it. But it's getting old. Oh, glad you like the new release. Yeah, I'm looking forward to these ones. I look forward to all of them, you know, because kind of what I draw are the things that I want to be using anyway. But I don't know. I probably have a backlog of like 1,000 designs, you know, that I've kind of thought about over the years. Now, sometimes there's some new ones. It's like, oh, let's do this. You know, I hadn't really thought about that before, but at one point in time or another, it's like you've kind of thought, or people have suggested, you know, hey, can you do whatever? It's like, oh, yeah, you know, 20 years later, it's like, did you still want that, you know, if they're still stamping. Okay, so let's see. Let's get in here with some of this right here. Okay, now this green isn't going to represent flowers or something like that, but it's giving kind of that texture to, say, grasses that are reflecting some light, okay? And it should blend in with the background, so it's a nice kind of visual transition into the piece. Now, you can't see this at all here. I can see it. Now these are acrylic paint pens. So this is kind of getting me a little bit, it acclimates me. Adding some media down into an area where it's not really going to show up very well, especially if it's a change of media or a change in kind of application technique. Okay, so I was kind of like going like this with colored pencils, wiping like this with inks, you know, wet inks. But now I'm kind of doing this dotting, and we were adding kind of transparent. I'm gonna go close my door here. Okay, I forgot to close my door before I started this vid. What was I saying? Okay, so we went from transparent applications of color. Now we're doing kind of more, they're a lot more opaque looking, okay? They're a little bit more translucent, you know, but in theory, they're kind of more opaque, you know, because you have this, you know, it's acrylic paint, but they make them acrylics in these types of pens thinner than you would, you know, with a tube paints or something like that, just because it has to flow and, through whatever capillary action. It has to get through that tip, whatever the tips or nibs. Okay, so kind of filling some of this out with kind of little wildflowers. I like to cluster my little dots in here. Okay. Okay, something like that. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, you can see a little bit. That's going to become a little bit more obscured as it dries. Maybe not the ones in the white, though. Maybe that one stands out a little bit more, but these ones down here, they kind of settle in when they dry because they become more transparent. They don't go to transparency, but they move towards it, okay? So if you need to add more, just add more, and sometimes you can just make certain ones a little bit more opaque. One of the things, okay, I keep forgetting too, and I don't do it, but I probably should. It's like, I should probably spray seal this and then add in some of these dots. Like maybe do some dots in there where it kind of blends with the background a little bit more when it dries. And then you seal it off with a workable fixative or something like that. And then you apply some more over the top of it. And those ones would probably be more opaque because they're not kind of soaking into the pulp of the paper as much, after you've kind of sealed it off with like a fixative or a acrylic sealant. So you can have like different tones of, in this case, like a pink or something like that, two different values. One would be a little bit darker because you're adding it over a darker area. And again, the paint is kind of soaking into the surface. Okay, here's some blue. Here's some whatever, lupine or bluebells or something like that. Okay, and then the most visual one should be white in theory because it's going to have the most contrast between the background. I see, I didn't get this one flowing here. Let me get another one. First full winter we had 14 inches of snow. Wow. I saw some snow out in Joshua Tree. Joshua Tree National Park is about an hour and it's about 2 hours from me now. But they had a bunch of snow out there. I think it was like a week ago. Which isn't out of the ordinary. It usually burns off in a couple hours. And it's like you can't see like any evidence of it at all. Okay, so you had an ice storm. Hand orange covering eyes. I'd like to see an ice storm one of these days. I wouldn't want to live in it, of course, like you guys do, because I'm too weak for that. I'm too feeble. I'd like to take some photographs of things, after an ice storm, I think. All right, let's see here. Here's some white. Okay, yeah. It's going to stand out a little bit, probably too much, but again, I think this will kind of blend in with the foundation colors, okay? So if you put it over green, it'll look a little bit lighter green over whatever, which is kind of cool with whites. It makes the pens a little bit more watery, just so that they don't clog up. But I don't know. They do make some other ones that are a little bit more opaque, but I question whether the manufacturer had ever tried them or whatever, like for a month or two, because I've had other ones that were more opaque and they're beautiful when you just kind of open them up and they're working beautifully, but as soon as they like make contact with the air, and once they're sitting around for like a couple months, it completely dried on the tip, So it's like, oh. So maybe it's one of those things. If those are like that, and you're going to use them, maybe they're, I don't know, if you have a bunch of pieces that you're going to do artwork, maybe have them all ready for your acrylic paint pen sets like that, because they're really spectacular. They're a lot more opaque and vibrant, but maybe don't expect them to last, more than, I don't know, maybe a month after you pop them open. Would it be worth it? I don't know. I mean, if the set's like $15 and you get like some really spectacular work out of it, I don't know how much, that would be for anyone, but, maybe that's fine. Like I did an 11 by 17 piece, and when I got those pens, I went back into some old pieces that I did because I thought, okay, these are so much more vibrant. And I added some extra touches, and it really brought some pieces to life, I mean, they looked kind of fine before that, but it's all, relative, right? Then you get some pens that are like so much more opaque and vibrant. And then when you add them in there, it just goes up to that one extra kind of level of, in this case, it was value and intensity, brightness. So lightness and brightness. But it was short-lived. maybe if I kept using them, I let it kind of sit around for a couple weeks, or I don't know, maybe it was a month before I kind of went back and started using them again. You can kind of get them going again though by scribbling and scribbling and scribbling, where you're kind of wearing off that hard shell of ink around it, where it's kind of like open from the barrel through that that felt tip again. But I thought, oh my god, this is like so much work. I'm not going to do that every time I use those pens. All right, so anyways, a nice light, airy piece like that. Let's heat set it a little bit, and let's add in kind of that extra little touch in here that should finish off this piece really nicely in terms of whatever the thematic, kind of emotional, whatever theme of the visuals. I usually don't think about heat setting my acrylic paint pen work, because that's usually one of the last things that I do, but I'm going to come in here with some white pigment ink, and I didn't want to kind of smear some of that down there and move it around, although that wouldn't be too bad, but I'm going to use some of this white pigment ink up top here. Okay, so nice and light and airy kind of thematically. So why don't we put that light and airy visual into this theme scene here with the white pigment ink of any type on this type of paper. On certain types of papers, it's good to have the brilliance because it kind of it's water-based and it'll dry on other types of surfaces, mainly foils, okay? But on papers, you can use just about anything. Pigment inks don't have a reputation of drying on glossy cardstock, but that's if you take, I'm talking about the oil-based ones. This one will, okay? But the oil-based ones, like your Colorbox and Hero Arts, Unicorn ones, those are oil-based, and if you stamp something in those inks on like a glossy cardstock, it's probably not going to dry because it's applied so thick, but we're just applying like a really thin layer into our pieces like that. And it, I never had a problem with those other types of pigment inks drying on glossy cardstock if you ever use a glossy cardstock. A lot of people don't use glossy cardstock anymore. Sheila just bought a ream of 1,000, so she's using that now. I have to look for those papers these days, when people ask, because it used to be, glossy cardstock was at every stamp store. Maybe not every scrapbooking store, but every stamp store certainly carried it. They might package it. They usually package it on their own. Um, but you got other places selling it by the sheet. You know, like Ranger had a pack of it. You know, like for a pack of 10 sheets or something like that. It was probably Chrome Coat, Cast Coat that they were using. You know, Stampin' Up had glossy cardstock. Okay, so adding this kind of this thin application of white pigment ink, and again, I feel it's emphasizing kind of the emotional tone of the piece by just doing that little bit like that. What we've done is we've added an element of softness into it, so it's kind of light and airy from a visual theme, you know. And this is going in, and if this was a stage, you know, this would be kind of like that little fog machine that they've put a little poof of fog into, you know, onto the stage like this. Okay. If you just joined in, what we're doing right here on all these different pieces, I'm going to stamp out kind of a really similar or the same foundation composition, which is just a few stamps. And then we'll go and we'll give these foundations a real different look, just based on kind of the imagery we use and also the colors and, you know, to a smaller extent, the surfaces that we're working on. Okay, let's see, I'm adding a little bit more. That will dry, just like the acrylic paint pens, quite a bit darker, so I'm adding in a little bit more than what probably will look ideal when it's wet. Just in general, I think it tends to dry about 20% more kind of see-through when this ink dries. And that's not just the Brilliance, it's any kind of pigment ink for some reason. Pigment inks dry, and they dry more see-through. They move towards see-through. I guess just like the pigment inks. I mean the acrylic paint pens. All right, so there we go, like that. Nice and light and airy in our meadow theme like that. Let's do something where we're doing kind of more, we were speaking of snow. Here, I'll leave this one right here. Let's do this one in a snowy type of setting. Okay, so that one should be pretty fast. The way that I do snow is often, or usually, just working in blue tones. I mean, you can do all kinds of other things. There could be like a sepia print looking, all warm tone snow scene, you know. But if you want to kind of really depict temperature, you know, then you stamp, you know, you use the colored inks that would, or media that would kind of emphasize that temperature, meaning, you know, usually blue tones, okay? So let's do that. Let's go in here. Okay, now one thing about snow too is it tends to be really reflective of light. I forgot what it was. It's like snow, I forgot what that was. I think we learned it in photography or something like that back in the days of film when we had to kind of know, you know, what to compensate for in terms of our f-stop settings. But I think it was snow. I don't know. It was really surprising. It was snow like reflects. It was something like 85% of the light or 90. I can't remember. But then they said like just regular Earth, you know, other types of things. I don't know. I think it was way below. It might have been 30 or I don't know, something like that. But the snow is like super, super reflective. Okay, so I'm going to make this one a nighttime. Yeah, let's do a daytime scene in this one because I'm going to do a nighttime scene after this. Let's do this too. I'm going to make this one snow. Let's do this one just a nighttime type of scene. Okay, so I'm going to do blue tones in both of them, but we'll tweak it a little bit. We'll have a little bit of a different, a slightly different color scheme here. All right, now on this one right here, or on one of those, let's do a moon. Let me stamp the moon up there just so I know where I'm working around. You can do this moon in black too, but I think I'll just do it in blue. This blue tends to be a little bit light. Let me go slightly darker with this moon here. I'll use the Marvy blue. These look the same, but the memento is quite a bit lighter in value. Now let's go here like this. Okay. So, you know, if you put moons kind of behind objects, sometimes it can look a little bit more dramatic with having something in front of it. You know, I have it up in the sky a lot of times too, but if you put something kind of it rising, it can be a little bit more dramatic in terms of a setting. You know, if you're ever out, you know, I think people tend to enjoy like a good full moon, but a lot of times when it's on the horizon, it really captures our attention a lot more. I don't know, isn't it larger on the horizon too, or kind of optically? All right, so I'm going to try to make this go fast because we're going to put a pretty good application of tone in here. Let's see. So I'm going to use my just some light blue re-inker fluid here just to make it go really fast. And again, these are on the semi-gloss cardstock, so you can use Copic markers or whatever, or your colored pencils too if you want to. Okay, this is going to be staging as well. I'm going to put this this rider right here, right into this spot right in here. So I'm going to have this kind of spotlit area right in here, I think. So I'm not going to go too dark. If this blue was a little bit lighter, like a distress ink tumbled glass, I would probably just fill it all in. Or I don't know, maybe I'd leave a little bit of white, but I'd probably go into the scene a little bit more, just because it was lighter. So I don't want to darken this all in, you know, is what I'm saying with this one, okay? So staging, we're creating our kind of darkened stage. I was mentioning to people earlier that if you see your piece as kind of like a stage, it kind of really opens up a lot of opportunities for different types of lighting that you might have in there. Okay, and this ink is kind of really wet and it's kind of moving around and picking up some of this black of the images that I stamped out. So I'm going to be a little bit careful about that. And let's just use the same one here. And we'll go into here. Maybe I'll use a little bit of a lighter touch if this is going to be more of a daytime type of situation. Here, we'll still have it a little bit kind of, not really murky, but you know, just not full, you know, kind of cloudless, you know, high noon daylight in here or something like that. Okay. You see right here, this is all too much of an area of kind of open area. I'm going to put some object in there, or some kind of little figure. This one's going to be a little bit more dark, so I've kind of brought that in a little bit more, the darkness. So I'm leaving that open, but I don't like it so open that it's just one gigantic spotlight, so I bisected that light right here, just with the light area like that, so it goes light, dark, and when you do that, you get a little bit more variation and thus visual richness. Okay. All right. Now this has got too much of that black in it. Let me get a pure. Let me just use the pad here. I didn't want it like murky. Blue up top like that. At least at this point in time. You might start doing it. It's like, I can use a little bit more you know, whatever, spirit, you know, where you got to go with something darker, but I like to have that as a kind of an option later on rather than kind of getting stuck with something, okay? Kind of striations in the sky like this, so you just kind of like keep it like streaky. You can have it like this right here, then kind of put one underneath there like that, and as you go along like that, if you want to connect them, you can, or connect them with a little bit of a lighter tone like that. But see, you're creating your own cloud by the use of negative space and what you didn't color, okay? And you can do that same type of thing going down in here too. So it's the same type of thing. It's the same type of kind of color application, but you're just doing it in two different areas that would look really good in water too. So it's like kind of the same type of thing that I'm doing all the time. It's transitions. It's just going like that, you know, from dark to light, okay? And in here it was with, you know, grasses. I was probably tapping a little bit more than streaking, but it's kind of the same kind of motion. All right. That. Hopefully I didn't take it too dark. It's like, oh yeah, we're going to do snow, huh? Okay, so let's see here. Let's transition this one and make this one a little bit more dramatic here. With some darker light like this. Okay. So you'd have all four seasons in one day, Sheila. So you're like having like massive swings in temperature then sometimes. It's not swinging like 30 degrees, is it? It would have to be. Unless summer out there, you know, it was like, whatever, like low 60s or something. We were up there in Newport, Oregon in the summertime. I don't know, years, maybe it's 10 years ago at this point in time, but it was like, man, this is pretty cold. But it totally reminded me of central coast of California. You wouldn't think so, but growing up in Lompoc, it sits out kind of on this point, and it was always kind of windy and breezy and foggy, you know, a lot of times, at least right on the coast there. It could be different, you know, just a few miles in, but where it was sticking out, it totally reminded me of growing up in, you know, where I did. I'm talking about that one weekend in, you know, Newport, which is Central Oregon for anyone that doesn't know. Kind of a cool area. Okay, this is like a brighter blue. Look at that. It's getting a little bit more of a kind of a glowing look to it, you know, just with that one extra color. Like that. Let's see here. Yeah, glad you like it, Linda. The new designs are going to be really exciting for me. I can't wait to use them. So talking about this too, I'll talk about those designs a little bit after this, but it's that visual context. I can't wait to use some of these designs in these different types of settings, you know, for extra kind of drama and a kind of a dreamy, you know, type of look to them. Hello, Linda. How are you? Jeannie, good to see you. Let's see here. All right, that's the blue here. On this one right here, I'm not going to use too much of this. Let's see. And again, I want this one to be a little bit more kind of light and reflective. I don't know, it doesn't even look like snow at this point in time. We'll see if I can do anything with the white paint pens in there. Or, you know, maybe I'll put some snow on my trees or something like that. Maybe one's just a different time of day. This one's like, you know, high noon on a foggy day, and the other one's, you know, nighttime, you know, whatever, midnight. One's noon and one's midnight. All right, let's see. That was the medium tone blue. It looks actually pretty dark in here. Let me see if I can go with one more blue. I was just going to skip to black, but kind of if you go through like kind of more of a navy blue, I think it really gives it an extra nice, kind of an additional tonal range in here. This one here I do want really kind of dark to create kind of a little bit more of a, oh, kind of a dramatic staging, a more of a dramatic presence for the character. Sheila loves glossy. Now, Sheila, you hadn't used glossy very much before, or you just wanted to pick up more of it or something? I couldn't remember what you mentioned on that one. Yeah, but glossy sure retains a lot of that media, the characteristics of especially brighter media on the surface. And I always tell people that's why printers, traditionally use glossy cardstocks for things where they want to really kind of get as much attention to their printed pieces as possible. So that's book covers, that's movie posters, that's business cards and flyers. It's it's glossy that they're doing, and of course it has it's for a specific reason. From a tactile feel, it's really cool to get like a book cover that's kind of that flat brushed look, satin finish, from a tactile point of view. But for just strictly visuals, it's glossy. Now, I'm not doing glossy here because I wanted to use some colored pencils on these ones, and you can't do colored pencils or on glossy cardstock. It just doesn't have enough tooth to it. Tooth meaning texture. All right, so that was navy blue, and this one's a really, really dark blue called Prussian blue. If you have Distress Inks Blueprint Sketch or the Adirondacks, it's a little bit more of a greenish tinge, but that one was denim, I think. That one's a really good dark blue too. What type of cloth are you using? Oh, it's Bounty. It's this right here. You can find these ink applicators at Costco. I used to use the Colorbox stylus tools all the time, okay? But ClearSnap went out of business a few years ago, and Colorbox stylus tools were these great little wands with these sponge applicators, and it was very, very ergonomic, okay? Now, a lot of people don't like the use of this, okay? Hey, Kevin, I bought these ink applicators. I do not want to be using paper towels, And I get it, to me, this is like going back to finger painting in a way, That's what it feels like. But I use these right here for me, now sponges would be really good too, but I find this to be really comfortable to use because it really, it's like applying something, by hand. It's almost like next to using like your fingers, to do finger painting or something like that. But I like these paper towels because you can get them anywhere in the world and everyone already has them, like in their house. And if they don't have they don't have to use Bounty. Now, some people said, hey, I can't use mine because it's got, this texture on it. So every time I tap down, I'm making these impressions of this paper towel, but I just go like this, and I just, I go like that, and it's like, the texture's gone. So, you might have to dip in there and just kind of go like that or something a little bit, but I don't know. It doesn't take too long, but I get it though. It's like, hey, I don't feel like an artist doing paper towels, but I don't know. They work pretty darn good. They're absorbent, and they're soft, and I don't know. They're like strong enough too, where they're not completely falling apart, and you can get like, I don't know, a bunch of these done with like one paper towel. All right, so anyways, there's our kind of dramatic staging. Hopefully it looks dramatic to you. And let's stamp our figure in here. Okay. And we'll take a look at, the same kind of foundation. I stamped this sedge filler a little bit too hard in here. So it's like, okay, I'm going to make this one my nighttime scene. All right. And okay, let's see. Here's one of those things when you're stamping something into an area, your subject matter, your visual kind of focal point, don't have their heads. If it's a person or an animal, don't have their heads going up into the dark area. Have them, down here. You can have some of the body, kind of, but don't have like the heads kind of obscured, in terms of the shape by stamping them over something dark. Mickey, you have so much glossy paper, huh? $3 miles from Tillamook. I think I mentioned to you probably when you were talking about that your area. I was just thinking about that Tillamook. It's like a self-guided tour in that area, but they have that snack bar in there. And I'm lactose intolerant. There wasn't a darn thing in there that was lactose free, unfortunately. But I did take a tiny little speck of taste of, I don't know, my son or wife's ice cream. And it's different there, too. It's not like I'm going to go to Tillamook, over at my local grocery store and buy it. Because it was like super, super fresh, Maybe it was made that day or something like that. Now, I can eat cheese, though, because it doesn't have, like, super, like a lot of lactose in it. Yeah, but we made sure to go there. Okay, and I just heat set this because I'm going to put some white pigment ink right down here. But again, here's, basically the same two. We'll look at these first two ones kind of finished off like this. But really a different emotional tone. Here you have the meadow. Yeah, I put the moon up here instead of just these clouds like this. But here are these two flanking trees. Really different type of context and staging, but the same types of natural elements. So you can really kind of change things around. On one of these, I'm going to put some aliens, and then we'll do a zombie piece. Okay, let's see here. Bob Ross. Hello, Willie Nick. Thanks for joining in. I don't remember. I don't think Bob Ross was on our... Was he on PBS? I don't think he was... I knew of him, but our whatever affiliate, PBS affiliate, I don't think he was on, or I didn't see it, but I was aware of him like years ago. And so I did see some episodes. There was this other guy, Pascal, I think he was. I think it was an Italian painter that we used to watch. Or I used to. Not a lot, but I don't know, I'd flip that on there once in a while. But yeah, landscapes, with Mr. Ross. I've thought about getting like a permanent before, but kind of decided against that. I'm joking, folks. I always tell people, I remember when everyone was getting perms in like the 70s. Like my mom and brother did in the 70s. It's like during those disco era days. But I don't know if Bob Ross, was that curly head of his natural? I wasn't quite sure from looking at his bio. All right, so here's a deer like this. We'll put this kind of in more of a lighter setting maybe here with some additional snow textures. Let me see. Let's do... I want to be extra sure on this video here about not smearing. Usually I don't care too much, but Let's see here. Tillamook, yeah. Ice cream, create cheese, and essence of cow. So if anyone ever goes to like to Oregon and or touring around, yeah, check out that Tillamook cheese factory. It's pretty cool. They have sampling. Boy, I wonder how long it took them to open that place up again after the lockdowns. Had to switch laptops to be able to see the chat. Oh, okay. Huh. Wonder why that would be. Let's see. You didn't, okay, you didn't use the glossy. Was that, let me see. That was in context of the stamps. You hadn't used glossy before, huh? The glossy was a real kind of lost medium, I think. I wasn't aware of that. Okay, I started talking about glossy when I started posting on Facebook. It occurred to me, wow, somewhere it skipped a generation. I have a feeling that glossy was kind of. I always tell people everyone used glossy, not just exclusively, but if you were a rubber stamper in the 80s, I think until the early 2000s, pre at least explosion of scrapbooking, okay, everyone used glossy. It's because there wasn't a lot of stuff to use out there, so there was matte papers and gloss papers, okay, or I mean, there was inks. There weren't a lot of accessories, so if you didn't, have this pre-Basil and all those different types of papers and things like that too. So, you know, crafters and paper crafters, we like getting stuff. So, yeah, if you didn't use, I'm going to add in some extra kind of brighter blue tones in here. It's a little bit boring. If you weren't getting and using glossy, it was like one of the 10 accessories out there that people used that you wouldn't have. I don't know, maybe there was less. There were things that people used, but it wasn't. There were a lot of things. There weren't a lot of things that were kind of catered towards the stamping community, like specific products. Gel pens came in at some point in time, and starting to sound like a old man stamping here, but yeah, pre-pads too. But yeah. But one of those things that stores would carry, they would carry packs of. I don't know if they carried packs of matte cardstock because usually people knew where to get that type of thing. But glossy cardstock would often be carried in stores, and they would carry them in packs of like 25 4x6s or something like that, and they would have like gift tag sizes, pre-ATC type of things. So it was usually Stamp of the Hand, who I used to work for, carried gift tags, and what they were doing was they were kind of repackaging chrome coat, cast coat into smaller packs so someone didn't want to have to buy a ream of 200 sheets. And then, as I was mentioning, stores used to carry the packs of that. Okay, let's see here. All right, let's go in and add in some kind of more sparkly highlighting. I forgot to, I didn't do that colored pencil, so anything that I colored in there, it colored right over the acrylic. If you ever had too much acrylic paint pen work, you can't really remove this very easily, but you can de-emphasize it by coloring it with a colored pencil. If it's like, oh my God, that stands out too much and I have too many dots, it's too busy or whatever, just color it in. And you might still be able to see it, but you'll de-emphasize it by coloring it whatever color. I don't know, I guess you can make it almost disappear, by coloring it the same color of whatever's in the background. All right, so here's some little kind of light, kind of reflecting off of the the snow. Maybe it's a real early snow. You can put in some little patches of, little greenery underneath it or something like that too, where it's not just completely covered in snow, or maybe it snowed a little bit and it's kind of burning off or something like that. You can do that too. If you want a little bit of like a temperature change in your piece, it might be kind of interesting. Applicator and foam tips in an art supply store in Cleveland. Wow. You found the stylus tools, huh? They're still kind of out there a little bit. Periodically, someone will put some of those up. It's because periodically someone will ask me. They'll put a notation on, one of the videos where I was using those stylus tools, and they'll say, "Hey, where can I get some of those?" So I'll look on like Etsy or Facebook. Okay, so here's a little bit of green in there. I don't know if you can tell. I really like the difference between these two right here. One's a little bit warmer in there. Like that. I didn't put it everywhere. I kind of put little spots of it. See, one of my instructors used to say sometimes the warmest colors are in the shadow areas. So you can kind of warm up, or you can add richer tones into your shadow areas. And kind of in here, green would really stand out, but if you want a little bit of warmth, sometimes you put it in the darker areas where it's kind of de-emphasized, but you still get that nice kind of extension of your temperature range in your piece. So before it was all just, cool tones in there, but you can add in that warmth. Let's do something right here too. This piece right here, this is one of the things I used to like doing. In my pieces, when they were all blue or something like that, if it got kind of too monotonous, you go in with a little bit of pink or something like that into your blue. This one's a lilac. But just, if you have something that's like way too powerful, you just take your applicator, your precision ink applicating towelette, they call them, and just get some of that ink off so that it's much more of a dry brush style of application. And when you do that, it's drier on here. So therefore, when you apply it, it's going to be, if you've taken off enough, it'll be lighter in value and duller in intensity. It doesn't mean that you have to do that, because if you think, oh my God, I wish it was more intense, then just, ink up again and go in there and build it up. But something like this, you can just add it in really lightly like that. You can barely tell, right? But see, that's why I always tell people, if you ever kind of don't know if you want to use something, then just use like a much, much lighter version of it in your piece and see if you like it. When you can see it like that, you'll have a much better idea if you want to add more into there or not. So I just added a little bit up here and a little bit right there. So it was like on the top portion of this white area and the bottom portion on the right-hand side like that. And then I'll add on a little bit more. I could have done that in colored pencil too, but again, I'm going to have this overhanging branch, I think, coming in here later on. And I don't want to put a waxy application of pen work in there and stamp over it with a water-based ink and have the the colored pencil resist the impression, the moisture. All right, let's see. Let's go back to this right here. These are called, what was it called? It's a cotton ball, but I was, I've joked about this in the past. It was, I said, someone's going to come out with, oh yeah, blending clouds, your cotton balls like this. They get all frayed like that. You see that like that? When I'm dipping it into this kind of thicker ink. So you just kind of smash it down like that. And that gives you a nice, smooth, flat surface to use like that. Okay. So you gotta keep pushing it down a little bit, and that pushes some of the ink back up into there, so you have more to transfer down like that. Okay. Now we could have taken care of a lot of this too. When I'm stamping this image out, this meadow, I could have wiped some of the ink off of the trees before I stamped it out, so they stamp out lighter. So you get that kind of look inherent in the impression itself, and you don't have to go back in and alter it later, And it doesn't take long. It's just like, it takes like 2 seconds, you know. So if you know that you're going to have some trees that you want to look really foggy and you don't have to apply it, actually apply that type of look into the scene afterwards, and then you can just do it right from the beginning and wipe off some of those areas up there. So it's going from wet, dry, wet on the stamp, and then you stamp it out and it looks dark, light, dark. Okay. All right, adding some of this down like so. I'm putting, if these things are in this kind of this low line fog, I put it over my object like that, and it gives it a little bit of a value variation like that. It's soft. Let's see, let's have a little bit of this lighting on these trees like this, so maybe it's a little corridor of, you know, illuminated fog or something like that. If you add in too much, you just kind of wipe it off with your dry side of the blending cloud, the life-changing blending cloud. There was some makeup brushes being sold as you know, those applicators, colored blender and tools. I thought that was a cool name they gave to it. It was like the life-changing color applicator or something like that. I forgot what it was. All right, so anyways, here's 3 pieces. Hopefully they look different enough in terms of you know, the look of it so far. Let me do something like this on this one right here. Let's go in with a little bit of this blue toned acrylic pen work. All right, see that right there? Kind of starts bringing, you know, to life that surrounding area. And then I was going to say maybe I should wait for that to dry. Let me put in a little bit of this right now. I'll use less of this, okay? Again, I don't want to, the whole point of this is to make these kind of have their own kind of visual characteristics on this video or this live stream. So let's do this. Let's put this around these trees a little bit like that, okay? A little bit too much like that here. All right, something like that. It's just kind of subtle. I just kind of put it up. I don't know what would be, I don't know, a foot off the ground or something like that in that setting, maybe. All right. So, you know, 3 relatively friendly looking pieces. You know, maybe one has a little bit more drama in it, I think. One's more of a different spirit here due to the figure, plus, you know, the accompanying additions in there in terms of technique. Let's go into something where we create something a little bit more of a, you know, a different spirit altogether in the form of these 2 zombies a la The Walking Dead, or I don't know, any one of those gazillion zombie series these days. But what I'm doing is I thought it might be kind of fun to do it on the vintage paper. Okay, these come in 8.5 by 11 sheets, like multi-pattern packs, you know, for really cheap. Cut in 4s, okay, quartered. And these are really fun to use. Any of these pre-printed types of papers are really fun to use just for those textures. And plus they're really inexpensive too, which makes it kind of a little added bonus. But let's see here. Let's go in And for zombies, I want this to be kind of a dreary kind of looking, theme here. And in the Walking Dead series, they're walking around at, at high noon and everything like that in any type of setting. But, if we're going to do something like this, I want to create kind of a heavier setting, I think, or theme. So let's do that. I really like working just in monochromatics for this. Not all the time, but, we did some of those zombie pieces, I think, on like real super colorful holographics too, and that was fun. But I'll show you what this will look like. And this should look quite a bit different here, scrolling down. Yeah, he was on PBS. Thanks, Mickey. So it's interesting, the Bob Ross thing, I guess it was like 20 years ago. There was like a revival or something like that because I was seeing like a release of his video series. I think it's before, I think there are a bunch of them are just on YouTube now, but I'd go into the this art store and it was like this whole kind of display of the Bob Ross. I don't think it was VHS tapes. They must have been DVDs or something like that. And it's like, oh, they're bringing this guy back, or whatever, or it's like kind of in the public conscious again. All right, so see that kind of wiping it off. If I go on here, it's going to be like way too dark. This is just straight black. So applying it this way, it's like a 5% gray. Okay, now anyone that thinks, okay, here's the thing, okay? When we use, if you're used to using inks in any kind of media, you're used to getting a full application of it. When we're stamping in this, we're inking it up, we're stamping it out. We want that color of whatever media that color depicts, with pencils and everything like that, okay? So a lot of times when people think, hey, Kevin, you could do that, I can't do it, okay? And I know why, because I've seen all their pieces with certain types of techniques, but see this right here? When I do that right there, now this is on a piece of like matte paper too. It's copy paper, so it's like the cheapest, most absorbent paper you can possibly have. But if that's the worst kind of mark you can do, it's like a 5% gray, So this right here is really easy to do, but I know where people are coming from, and it's completely understandable. If they go like this, they think, oh my God, because they have like way too much ink on there, or they go like this and they think I can't see anything, so they press in harder sometimes and it gets a really kind of harsh mark, okay? But if you just kind of take it kind of more methodically and just build it up, and it's not like a slow process either. I'm not going for like complete darkness up here. I'm just kind of going for that. It's really hard to do any kind of technique on here that's going to apply a mark that you don't want. Now, sometimes we can get it's like we're starting to apply on here. And I get this from, teaching classes for years and years. A lot of times when I teach people the technique, it's like, okay, yeah, I got it. It's coming along just fine like this. No big obtrusive, unintentional marks, or something like that, where they get a big streak or something like that. So sometimes when they start applying it in there, but I'd rather have them do this, though. I want them to, feel free about application. Sometimes they get rid of all of their lighting in their scenes, okay? So it's, when you get this done, it's like, okay, it's really easy and user-friendly like that. Don't wipe everything out, you know what I mean? Or just wipe it out, but just remember, you just put on the brakes the next time you do it, Doing something like this, too, it's almost like, it's not bad to get in some repetition because it's almost like using, if you haven't applied ink in this way, it's getting some repetitions down, it's like, going for a little bit of a warm up before you go out and jog or whatever, or do any kind of thing, if you're a, whatever, a musician, or piano player, and you want to do some scales or something, just, to get your fingers kind of, back in the swing of things. For me, I don't know, my applications like right now are probably better than the ones, a few minutes ago, especially if I don't do this type of technique for a while, okay? So, just take it a little bit more methodically, you know, and build up those darker tones through lighter ones, and it'll just go really, really fast. I mean, this is like practically done right now, and it didn't take too long. But sometimes people want like that tone right there in the first application, which you can get though too, you know. Once you get kind of the feel of it, you know, you'll have a better feel of the ink that you're using, the absorbency, how wet your pad is, stuff like that, and whatever applicator you're using. You don't like paper towels, use, you know, some sponges or something like that. Certain sponges might be a little more absorbent, you know? So you just kind of, you stay on the edge a little bit longer, or you dab off a little bit more, and you'll never have kind of like a, well, I won't say you'll never, but there's less chance of you applying something that you probably didn't intend, maybe that you don't want on there, which is usually just a heavier application of some sort of medium, okay? All right, so there's our kind of our little spotlit area in there with staging again. We have our illuminated area right in here for our little characters. I don't know, it doesn't look too dreary to me, but you know, we can add in some you know, it would be cool is in here, all you know, you add in some dead branches or something like that instead of, you know, full leaves or something like that. Yeah, vintage. I think that's what they call them all on Amazon. If you look at the different types of papers on Amazon, or the different types of papers like this. Okay. And if you've seen one of my favorite pre-printed papers, types of papers on that you can find out there, not just in terms of Amazon, but Amazon is just the easiest place to look for them, are the placemat papers. So the wood grain papers, the what's that, leather, suede. The suede paper is really fantastic to work with. Again, I just put the two zombies on this one block right here. Not somewhere I'd want to be, but hey, you know, that's life out there. You know, there's zombies walking around, so at least in some universes, right? All right, so let's see here. Yeah, let's add in. Let's change kind of the or extend the emotional tone of the piece, maybe. Let's go in with something like this. I don't know, I have these overhangs. Maybe that would be better, but this is just right next to me on my desk here, so let's add in a dead tree. I like the dead trees and really live, you know, plush springtime types of things too, because it makes the lighter things even seem even lighter and more plush, you know, when you have something to contrast against it, like in a form of like a dead tree. I mean, you see it out in nature all the time too. I'm seeing that nice and craggy like that. Let's see. Let's do this too. Let's put one, because like we don't want to. You know, we wouldn't want to be here like in person. You know, we'll put a little bit of a stronger barrier here, visual barrier in front of us, and those creatures kind of coming after you to eat you. Like that. I'll have some other things here too, but let's do this too. Let's start adding some of this in. I was going to add in these little tiny rocks here too. Maybe won't do that on all of them. But maybe there's less grass in here too. You know what I mean? Because it kind of goes along with that theme of kind of you know, the dead. Like that, okay. So see that? I mean, that would kind of entail there's less kind of, you know, like a grassy area in there, like that. But kind a fun paper to do. I really like this type of paper with my Halloween-ish inspired scenes. Like that, okay. So four different looks like that. Same composition base. Oops, what happened to my exposure? My exposure's going to go in nuts here. But my hands are in here. My paper's like here is getting too much of a reflection. I have an auto reflect. Like put this one in the center instead. There we go, like that. Yeah, four really different types of looks right there on this same basic composition. Okay, now here's another one right here. We have the holographic printable vinyl sticker paper. Okay, and I thought, okay, when I was thinking about just some different things I would stamp out today, I thought, well, I wanted to do the Martians, or I don't know, whatever they are, aliens. And I thought, well, let's do that in, you know, really kind of play around with it instead of doing it on a white piece of whatever cardstock. Let's do it on the holographic sticker paper because, you know, I mean, it's some fun and whimsical type of, subject matter. So on this one right here, I used my Brilliance water-based pigment ink. Water-based media works on here. And then I laid down the reason why it's white up here, but then you get that, you can see where the white is right here. All of that underneath the images is the water-based Brilliance ink. A really great combination with this type of paper. This type of paper is really meant, you know, it's more for your inkjet printer, but we can use it for stamping by using these Brilliant inks, and it dries on here like really fast. Super fun to use. Okay, so let's see. Hello, did I say hello to Donna there? Hello, Donna? I've had it for 15 years. And storage, going to throw it away, but watching Stampscapes, we went and got it. Good, good. A lot of my paper it's like that old, I think. Because some of my glossy cardstock, it was getting, it has been kind of yellowed. But I don't care about that because, you know, I'm usually adding a lot of tones and stuff in my pieces anyways, so, you know, if it has a slight yellowish tone to it, it just gives it a little bit more warmth. Maybe, you know, if you have kind of a yellowing cardstock that's been sitting around for a long time, you don't have to do those warm base layer colors anymore. Like I always do. I have to do less of it. It's just getting a little bit of yellowish, you know, kind of like tarnish or whatever around on the edges. All right, so here, look at this little block worked out really well. I just put these two aliens right here and the flying saucer right up here. And we'll do something like this right here, okay? So I can just stamp it out instead of all three, like at different, you know, one at a time. Because I'm really lazy when it comes to alien scenes. All right, let's go like this here and do this. I was when I was just about to stamp it out, I thought, wait a minute, should I use the colored pencils before or after? Let's do them after. Okay, so that's another really fun thing with this type of combination right here. The Brilliance inks, you can't use colored pencil directly on top of the printable vinyls, okay? It's shiny and slick paper, you know? So colored pencils have like zero tooth to grab into, okay? But look at this right here. So that's, you know, pigment inks are a really thick ink, right? But this is completely dry. Oops, I got a fingerprint there from my other ink that I had. Oops. Yeah, I'll fix that up, you know. And I have the like light beam coming down in here. Yeah, my other inks that I'm using on here. Okay, but the colored pencils, okay. But this, it doesn't, no, it doesn't make it, you know, using Brilliance ink on this type of paper, it doesn't make this now, it's like perfect for, you know, colored pencil. Like, it doesn't make it like a matte cardstock that would be, you know, really ideal for colored pencils, but it does provide enough of a foundation to add a certain amount of colored pencil layering on there. Okay, you can add kind of like 3, you know, kind of lightly applied applications in here. Okay, so let's go like this. I'm using, you know, the Prismacolor pencils, which might be a little bit softer than some other brands too. Some of my Prismacolors out of the same set don't apply on here as well. Just, I don't know, they're harder in the lead for some reason. The composition of it is just different. Okay, so applying this down. I'm gonna, I don't know what time of day I'm gonna put this at. I should really make it a nighttime type of thing. But let's have some greens down here, because this is more of like a, again, you know, you can reference nature or something like that, and, you know, natural lighting or something like that, where you're not going to see like warm tones during the daytime. I mean, during the nighttime with under moonlight. But, you know, it's not going to be this color anyway. You're not going to walk outside and, you know, metallic reflectives or something like that. You might see it in the sky, but, you know, so just there, no rules. Not that there's any rules with any scenic stamping at all, but I would say especially with an aliens on holographic, you know. So here's some blue tones right here, and here's a little thing on my rocks here. I'm kind of leaving the tops of some of these rocks a little bit lighter, with the base of them a little bit darker, so it makes it look like they're a little bit more top lit. This will create a little bit of a shadow cast by the aliens too, maybe. Like that, it kind of anchors them down in the scene a little bit more. Like about like so. All right. Let's see. I think, you know, when I'm doing these types of things, it's kind of like, I don't know, it's like the little kid in me comes out from the holographic papers, you know, which we didn't have as kids, but I think, you know, there were some things occasionally that would have, you know, I really would have gotten a kick out of these types of papers, or being able to do things with it, crafting, if that was around back then. We had things like prism tape though, you know, for like people were using on skateboards back in the 70s. They don't use like prism tapes anymore. Skateboarders, but it was all about kind of these flashy kind of aluminum boards and stuff like that back then. But we always got a kick out of that. Prism tapes, prism sticker tapes. So it's just kind of fun when you're, you know, you're an adult and it's like, you know, I'm in a paper arts craft business, so it's like, it gives me an excuse to get that type of thing and have fun with it. All right. So there's some blue tones like that. And let's do, let's do this. Let's get their eyes a little bit more illuminated, okay? So their eyes right now are just the color of whatever's back there. Okay, well, this one's looking like that way, and this one's looking this way. But let's illuminate some of the lights on here, okay? Let's do it where we'll illuminate some of those areas. And I got that smudge right up there, I know. But there's these eyeballs right here, like that. And let's go with, did I say hello to Caroline? Hello. let's get these eyeballs kind of illuminated. The eyeball and this UFO right here probably will be the lightest thing in the scene in terms of value. It might not be the most attention getting, but see that right there? That eyeball on that. That. All right. And let's do a little bit, let's do it like a half, like a tractor beam type of thing coming down here. Because that's always like one of those types of fun little things that I add into my UFO scenes. One time we were doing a live stream, and the theme was this, I think it was a cow getting beamed up into a UFO, you know, like a flying saucer. And I think I had to make one. I had to make a flying saucer like on the spot in that live. I think I did it before. I don't know. Did I do it before the live stream? I'd have to. I don't know. People like sat around watching me like draw out a little UFO or something like that. But we have the UFO now, you know. All right. Let's see here. Let's do this. Standard things for light beams. Often have like light beams kind of like coming through trees or something like that I do. Same type of thing, but this is just a, you know, one tractor beam or something like that right here. Yeah, it'd be a little bit more effective if it was at a nighttime type of setting, but we'll just go with this right here. All right, so like that. I'm not going to make it super solid, okay? But we'll have it a little bit more translucent because I want those images to show up still. That I've stamped out, and I don't want to make them just completely opaque, which I don't think would happen on the, you know, these other types of papers, but on this type of paper, the printable vinyls, this application of this media does stick really strong to it because it has this emulsion on there that really grabs moisture, water, and it dries it really fast because that's the way it's designed, so that when you're printing things out, you're not waiting around for it to dry for a long time. So if you're printing, you know, you don't want to take something out of your printer, it's wet, so it really, really dries fast. I'm going to do this too. I'm going to have this beam a little bit varied, so I'll vary the strength of it. So I'm not just trying to get this even application of white here. Go up a little bit heavier to kind of right by the spaceship, maybe. Yeah, I'll put a little bit of a heavier application on the top of that one alien's head. All right, let me see if I put enough, if we can even see it's like a beam like that. Yeah, a little bit. I'll go like this here. It's like kind of glary like that. See that right there? All right, let's see. Yeah, I can use a little bit more maybe here. It's a little bit too conservative maybe around those trees. There's not a lot I didn't make this scene too dark, so, or it's really, really light. So I'm not utilizing a lot of contrast on here to really emphasize that tractor beam. Let's do that right there. That's a little bit stronger. Yeah, it's like that. And here's that kind of that cool kind of rainbow type of effect in there. And that white in here doesn't cover everything, so you get a little bit of that metallic kind of reflectiveness and color coming through your brilliance ink and colored pencil applications in there. All right, let's add in a little bit of additional framing on the scenes, okay? So on these scenes right here, we're talking about staging and kind of emphasizing whatever type of subject matter or emotional type of environment you're trying to depict, visually, okay? So if these were going back to staging, we're really kind of tightening up the viewer's attention to our different subject matter in here through lighting, and our lighting on lighter pieces of whatever surfaces that we're working on, they're being created through the use of darker areas in there. We're doing it through value, and it's through the retention of those lighter areas that we establish those kind of, emphasized areas within the scenes, cards, whatever, where we want our viewers to look, okay? But it also provides some nice kind of compositional framing, It contains the pieces really nicely in terms of just structuring. So a lot of people do that, be it just a word stamp that says happy birthday on here. A lot of times people are kind of putting that little bit of a vignette around their pieces. They're probably not thinking of it as staging or something like that. But a lot of people that just already do that, but they just kind of don't know it, So sometimes when people are coming over from other types of stamping, they're saying, oh my God, I wouldn't be able to do that, but I see their pieces and it's like, well, you've already been doing the same thing. It's just the different subject matter and there is different, there's like figures or something like that. There's outline figures. There's a lot of word stamps or something like that, but you're just changing it to sometimes more tonal stamps or something like that, little dots of highlights or something like that. Chances are they're doing a lot of those types of techniques on there. It might be a little tweaks or something like that, but foundationally it's kind of the same things, but sometimes things are a little bit more emphasized instead of just this little bit of a vignette around something and it's like a word stamp in here, something like that. They just bring in that, those vignettes a little bit stronger and, depending on what things are on your pieces. Okay, but what I'm getting at here too is let's go in here and let's really kind of zoom in on our figures, even a little bit more so with some extra framing in here. I'll use the dye-based ink on my 3 semi-gloss cardstocks. You can use any other types of inks or something like that, but I just stamped out these 3 in dye-based inks, so I'm just going to stick with that. I don't know, sometimes you want your foreground elements to be even stronger, so you can go with like a VersaFine Clair or something like that, a little bit of a thicker, kind of more glossy, strong type of black, and that would be a really good choice for a semi-gloss or matte cardstock too. See it right there where I stamped that branch into that area? There was a bunch of white pigment ink right there, so it stamped out lighter like that. But then you get a little bit of a multiple toned branch like that. One of the things, okay, on this one right here I was thinking about, but I forgot. But I was going to do that one in a green as well. Let me add I don't know if this is going to stamp out. This one might be too light of a green. I'm not going to take the tie. I don't know, I have like a pine green around here somewhere. Okay, but this will be some kind of mix. I'm just putting some of this green into this black right over here. But let's see if we can get some multiple toned impressions in here. Yeah, okay, this looks pretty good. All right, so see this right here? Staging again. We've kind of framed this a little bit right here, so it brings the viewer's attention. If this were a stage or something like that, and you wanted someone to really kind of look at our subject matter, which they would be doing anyway, but you really kind of emphasize it a little bit more. And the tones that you stamp your imagery in kind of reiterate whatever type of content you want to, emotional content you want to depict. So even in your foreground little areas up there, you know, if you want it to seem like a lighter type of lighting in your scene, then you stamp your objects in multiple tones. Okay, so if this is a sunset scene or something like that, you can do it in branches in yellow and oranges where it's really reflecting that light too, and you know, kind of contributing to that spirit of you know, that type of color scheme. All right, so on this one right here, let's see. That one's supposed to be, it doesn't look like snow or something like that, but let's just say there was like a super early snow, you know, here. And let's do this. Let's do, there might be some green on here, but remember we added a little bit of green in here. I'm just going to add in some blue right here, like this. Yeah, we're kind of mixing, you know, some deciduous and, you know, mostly evergreens in here, but I do have some pine boughs, but let's just do this. Let's say there's, you know, multiple types of trees in a given area like there usually is, or often is. Okay, so we've got blues right here and black like this. And hopefully by bringing in that, we kind of bring the viewer's attention down this way a little bit more. Now, one of the things that would be good is having some of these pine trees back here, and if I did them in that blue color, you know, it would kind of add another layer back there. There's not a lot of space in here, but we can do something like that, and it would add to the that whole lighting type of look. This one could use a little bit more of that white pigment ink. If I sealed this one off and kind of add a little bit more sparkly touches in there, that would be good. Okay, on this one right here, let's do the same thing, but we'll just use all black in this nighttime type of setting. This one I really want really dark, and so I'm kind of holding this down a little bit longer to allow that ink, more of the ink, to transfer onto the card. And again, I was mentioning that sometimes if you, earlier when I was saying, sometimes if you have that moon or something like that, or a sun rising from behind objects, it can add to the drama of it. Same thing, you know, like these leaves coming down into it, you know, sometimes it's like, I don't want to cover up my moon. Well, you don't want to cover it up too much, but you can kind of, you know, overlap slightly. And if you do that, sometimes the moon looks even lighter from, you know, via the contrast that's created from stamping over the top of it like that, okay? But here, these types of hanging objects up here are kind of pointing down, so they're extra visual types of clues to really emphasize, you know, the figures or the subject matter within the scene, whatever it might be. So you've really created kind of a powerful setting for, you know, whatever you're stamping within there. Okay, this paper right here, the really super cheap, you know, absorbent, vintage paper, doesn't have to be vintage, but just, you know, your cheaper pre-printed papers, they're sealed off a little bit with those printer inks on there to make that look, you know, vintage like that, okay? So I go with a little bit of a thicker ink, because when I stamp it out, even the thicker inks too, on that, see how much darker this is like on a cardstock right here than that one right here? It's because this paper is so absorbent, it really is absorbing a lot of ink. So I'd like it to go with a little bit of thicker ink. So again, your VersaFine Clairs or something like that. I've been using this hybrid ink, which is half oil-based pigment and half water-based dye. I don't know how they do that, but I guess that's what it is. I find that that's a pretty good combination to use. But again, like a VersaFine, my VersaFine Clair is really dry right now, so I didn't use that. But let me see if I have like my, oh, yeah, I don't know if I want to use that. I was going to just use my winter ash tree upside down, but I want a dead branch. I don't know if I have one out on my desk. I have this pile of unmounted rubber that I haven't put away yet. Let me see here. You can see how I... This is how I store my unmounted rubber. I usually grab a bunch and I don't put it back for a while because I think, okay, I might be using that again. But this is my how I store my unmounted rubber in a binder like this. And I just have these plastic 3-ring binder sheets like this. And I just do it by size for me. Now, a lot of people, if you're really organized, what you do is you have an insert in here that has stamped out, the stamps that you're putting back in there, so you'll know where to put it and you'll know where to find it. You can move them around, You can categorize, but most of mine are done by size. Let me see here. Okay. Let's go for this hanging branch. I don't have this hanging branch coming in from both angles, so we'll just use it like this. All right. This would be cool for like a little quote stamp up there or something like that too. What about that one? The journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. Or this would be cool, too. I have these little tombstones in the background. The tombstones would be cool right back here, like some sort of, little burial area out in whatever, someone's parcel of land or something like that. And, here comes, the relatives back to visit. All right. Maybe I'll do this too. I usually don't do this, but maybe I'll just have these coming in from like one side. I don't know. That might look a little bit too unbalanced because, especially these are just kind of center position here. I'll go down a little bit slower down here though, just to change it up a little bit. So, yeah, I've left a little bit of room. It needs a little something up there. But those dead branches up there kind of add to the visual whatever theme of the piece, I think, maybe. Yours has yellowing around the edges, yeah. That gives you, that's called, yeah, that some of that paper came with this, they call it an auto vignette feature on that paper. It's not so, to tell you, I mean, it's not something that I like to see on the paper, but, again, it doesn't really bother me at all because my corners always get darker anyway. It's one of those things, I do like the looks of, I can do this more, like, my wife has like a, what is it, Cricut machines or something like that, so she can cut me out ovals and circles or any types of shapes that I want. But, these 90-degree angles on all our, typical sizes of things that we're using kind of are a little bit obtrusive, kind of from a compositional aspect in terms of they're just sharp edges, and especially like in nature to have something like that. So adding these kind of rounded corners like this with the vignette, I usually hit my four corners a little bit more with darkness like that for framing too, but it's also to get rid of these harsh edges up here, like these, like these leaves that I'm stamping out here or something like that. Any type of compositional type of rounding. See, it's like, instead of this up here, now I have this rounded type of thing like that. And see, I'm doing that right here a little bit. This one came down a little bit more, but it's kind of like going like this. Okay. And that just it softens the edges of the pieces. So it just makes them a little bit more visually, I think, friendly, potentially appealing, to some degree. I think it's one of those things that assists with that. All right. So there we go, like that. Okay, let's see, it helped out up there. Unless you're going to stamp like a word stamp or something like that, then, I leave my areas open a little bit more. And typically upper left or right corners, or, often where I put like quote stamps, you know, more so than within the body of the piece. But let's take a look at these 5 pieces right here. The brightness will be kind of brought out a little bit more on these matte, the semi-gloss cardstocks. When I spray them, the ones that have a lot of these colors on here will get a lot brighter and darker. I don't know, like a lot to me is like 10% or something like that, 7-10%. But 5 different looks with the same basic composition right here, and how you can really stage your pieces, which is the use of lighting, which is really the use of the application of darkness and shadow. Okay. But again, it depends what you stamp in there. I mean, you can do like this, this could have been in this type of coloring right here, and it's not going to look like ominous or something like that, just based on the, the figure that's in there. These two, this would have been cool in this type of setting right here. That flying saucer right in front of a moon would be pretty cool. Or it'd be cool to go with the moon, flying saucer, and then the beaming up of whatever. Doesn't have to be those aliens in there. It could be, like a person. But I think we did that too. I think we did instead of having this as a zombie, I had someone might have given me this idea too. Might not have been my idea, but I put them like, like they're laying down, so it looks like a person getting tractor beamed up into the alien craft like that. But again, the emotional tone of your pieces, you can really just change them around, change the spirit of it. This hasn't even gotten into, some of the very different surfaces that we can use. I don't know, I guess these two are pretty different than just white cardstock or something like that, but you start getting into, the brighter foils or something like that. You can stamp something like this, not in black on here, but you can do these images right in here in white, and that deer would look cool in here in white too. You'd have to lock it down on top of this really super glossy cardstock by spray sealing it afterwards. It makes it a little bit more flat looking, but it still looks pretty cool. But you do that in the white pigment ink, and that really gives you, a completely different look than all of these, which are just stamped in black. So, that's a really fast way to do something like a Christmas card. It gives it a real kind of wintry kind of almost like a embossed, look. That would be done in white. You can do something like that in silver, and that would look very different. Julia, how are you? The UFO and aliens, yeah. We need to do more alien settings. Oh, yeah. I wanted to did someone do this on the Facebook group? I can't remember, but they used some of the desert vistas in there, the mesas and things like that, without the foliage. And I thought, it's either that or I was watching like The Martian or something like that. And I thought, that looks like some of the designs, we can do something like a Martian type of terrain or something like that with those, desert types of images. And I think that would be pretty cool. I have a sheet of mirror paper. So what I used? No, the mirror paper, Linda, you would use most likely, if we're talking about, like a cardstock, something like this, you wouldn't use like a water-based ink on it. So you would go with, if you have it, something like your StazOn ink, okay? StazOn ink is more like a permanent ink from like a Sharpie pen, okay? Sharpie pens can work on things like glass and plastics, whatever, metal. Okay, so that's what the StazOn ink is a lot more similar to. Okay, now this one again is a metallic paper right here, but it's the printable vinyl sticker paper. Okay, because it has like an emulsion coating on it. This paper right here is really similar to this one. This one's a lot thinner, it's vinyl, but that the papers are kind of really similar. So this is where people really get confused sometimes. One of them is designed to go through your printer, inkjet printer. If you put this one through an inkjet printer, it's never good. The inks are never going to apply to it and stick. It would just, you'd go through it and it would just wipe it all off, okay? Because this type has a coating on there. So again, if you want to be safe about a lot of different types of surfaces, try your solvent inks on it. But if you ever have any questions too, just take a little piece of a test area of that paper, unless you have just like one sheet or something like that, or you can cut off like a 1-inch strip or something like that and try some different inks on there and see if they dry. But it's not only drying on certain types of metallic papers, but it's the ability to adhere to it. So I've used a lot of Brilliance inks on metallic papers because I can blend the Brilliance inks on those metallic papers, and then you can heat set them or just let them air dry. Something like during the wintertime, it might take a few days depending on how thickly you've applied the Brilliance inks on there, but they will dry because they're water-based and they just dry, much better than like they'll dry more than like an oil-based pigment ink would, which almost never dries. Like a VersaFine Clair on metallic papers or non-porous papers in general, they just won't dry because they aren't able to dry by absorption into that paper as well as evaporation. So yeah, the water-based ones will dry by evaporation. Okay, but you have to spray seal it though because they won't stick. Okay, so StazOn, if there's any questions about that, yeah, the StazOn's really up. And then just do a couple test prints too, because it's slippery because you're stamping wet into wet and it's not getting absorbed into the paper, so it's easy to stamp onto a piece of paper like that, and you got this wet ink in between, and it's easy to move the stamp. It's like, it slipped, but then just wipe it off or take, a piece of alcohol on a piece of cotton ball or something like that and just wipe it right off. And with certain types of like mirrored cardstocks, it'll come off. Linda B did a test with a bunch of different types of metallic papers, and some of them were just too porous, so you could not. I don't speak for you, Linda, but I thought that's what you said. Yeah, some of them you could not remove with some rubbing alcohol, like on a cotton ball or whatever, sponge paper towel, right? But the real mirrored ones, I think, I seem to recall, you were able to wipe off like a, application with the StazOn ink. Or was it the StazOn ink remover removed the StazOn ink? But I think, like rubbing alcohol can do it too. Yeah. All right. Anyways, so these are, some different types of looks, and really giving your pieces some different types of visual context. I mentioned the scene, so I'm not going to do another video on this one. I just did kind of a sneak preview, but this is what those sets look like. And this is, the eventual sizing that I came up with for these pieces. I don't really need to talk too much about this one right here because it's pretty straightforward. They're images, and you can use these types of horses and anything here to give you kind of like a size, type of a feel. These horses back in the day, I would love to have these like at a G size image, which is like 3 by 4.5 or something like that. Would have been really dramatic. But these days, I really try to get more quantity of a selection of different images. So, I might do them in smaller sizes because I might be able to give you like two more designs, instead of one big one or something like that. But this one's still a pretty decent size right here. But these other ones like this, we're speaking of metallic papers. I love the look of these silhouette types of images with these shadows stamped onto those metallic papers, just because I just think it just looks like it's standing out to me really three-dimensionally like that. Speaking of the metallic cardstock stamped in stays on inks on here, okay? But I really like that look. So that one, it was like, that looks pretty good, and I did that moose one on the last release, so it's like, me, I go nuts with it. So here's like, this one right here, done in a couple different sizes. These can be used in conjunction with one another or just individually. You can use a horse just individually too, galloping towards you, whatever. But there's these ones right here, done in 2 different sizes. It can be used in conjunction with one another, whatever. This one could be a, horse and whatever, fawn, like that. But these ones are different stamps right here. Reflections. And then I've always wanted some dolphin for my Seaside Cove stamp. So there they are. I used to like this movie called The Big Blue that was done in like the 80s or something like that. And I think the movie poster had this guy swimming under like a full moon or something like that. And this dolphin was like jumping over him. That's kind of in the movie. Not that scene, but or something like that. That was the spirit of it. Now, I didn't have any place to put this message in a bottle, but I've thought about that in the past, and I thought that would be kind of cool on the shoreline or something like that, or next to some water, so I don't know, these horses in here would look kind of cool, like on the shoreline. They can be anywhere, but kind of like next to the ocean or something like that would be extra dramatic. So I couldn't fit that bottle on any other sheet. You'll see how packed these sheets are. So I didn't want to make that bottle like so small that you couldn't even see it, because the whole point of it is to see that message in there. So yeah, a couple little more deer right there. Visual lead-ins like this. We have these stairways like this. This is the visual, the rocky path. I'm thinking I like these manicured kind of landscape backyards or something like that. But these could be also like things on a trail or whatever. But thinking about things like too, like in little ponds or something like that, or whatever, state park, national park, camping grounds, we have these right here. And I like to put lighting in my pieces. So these are some like floating lanterns done in like some different sizes right here. These are 3 different stamps right here. So these 3 are will be clustered together. This one right here, the bigger ones, I have added this little reflective area in there, but you don't have to, if you don't color that in, you can use those in a landscape. So, I mean, even on something like this, you can put these lanterns like up here, like in 3 different sizes, or flanking something like this, or any type of walkway, so that we can have an extra excuse to put kind of warm lighting within a landscape. Okay, I've been doing things like I said on my other video, I've been doing things like fireflies, because it gives me an extra excuse to have like some darker things kind of, going around in here that makes kind of sense, But these lanterns like this on the water or something like that, floating out on like a lake or a pond or something like that, I think would be really cool. And then I did these lanterns right here in a couple different sizes, because let's say, not on this scene right here, but if I had like a setting like this and I had like these lanterns hanging from, a tree or something like that, I had my tree like this, see, like this winter ash like that. If we did this kind of in a nighttime type of setting like this, and you put that there and you have these like little lanterns hanging from it, I think that would be really cool to do, to put, that warm lighting into a scene. or any type of lighting, LED cool lighting. A couple tents like this. I know one of my favorite types of photographs are like tents at nighttime. So you have this like orange light in here, but here this is underneath the stars in a moonlit night. It's completely dark or something like that. Maybe the easiest way to do it would be to stamp this out on some other piece of paper and to illuminate it and to just cut it out and put it into a scene. But that tends to look pretty cool. You like that horse, huh, Mickey? Mirror cardstock. Okay, holographic. Oh, the holographic you cannot remove the inks. Got it. Let's see. Yeah, anything else on? Okay, yeah, this one's an individual campfire. So I see this too. I see these campfires too under a nighttime type of sky or something like that, or a Milky Way. And I want to have these little kind of like glowing embers going up in here. So that would be like the, you know, you have something like this, you know, or these campfires like this under a nighttime type of sky. And you have these little kind of like glowing embers going up there, not in Pacific Palisades or, you know, where those fires were, but you have these little things going up into the sky like that. So you have these little white stars up in the sky, but then you have these warm tone ones coming up from the fire like that in the form of these acrylic paint pens and colors. So I can't wait to try out something like that. I think that would look kind of cool. You have these little dots of light going up that are from fire, that are warm. Then you have these cooler ones up in the sky. You know, again, it's just a little dot, so it's like a textural type of idea here with these pieces. That's how I burnt one of my fleece jackets one time, was from an ember from the campfire landed on my arm. Okay, so here's a little pond like this with a little waterfall, okay? You can put this in whatever natural setting, or you can put it in a like a manicured yard. This one right here, I had to put this upside down on the plate so that it fits within this space right here so that we have room to cut out in here too. But this one's like a little waterfall or something like that. It doesn't really fit in that well with these things around here, but I don't know. I just wanted something with some branches in there to stamp, you know, alongside to flank my other waterfalls. Or you can just kind of create your own little pool setting with it, you know. Something like this too. I've been doing these, you know, those types of reflection cards like this, right? Okay. So when I don't know if it was after I did this one last week. I can't remember when I did this, but so this right here, you see, I don't know what. Here, I'll just put it on the side like that. You see how that kind of blends in with those other waterfalls like that. So if this was going like right here, we can have this right here, and it has these extra branches in here. But it's a little bit more of like an intimate type of pool. It's like, you know, trickling down like, you know, like whatever, a few inches or something like that, okay? But you can put it alongside of any type of, you know, like far shoreline type of thing. You know, when I say far shoreline, it could be, you know, represent something that's, you know, 4 feet away from us too. You know, so you can kind of do these like little pools like that. And then I have those like koi fish that were released in the other release fairly recently. So you can put like fish down, you know, in the water or something like that around a, you know, little pond. Bridges are always fun, kind of done in a couple different sizes. Here's this, I always make them kind of rustic looking, you know. And again, I had to do these in kind of different configurations here to fit this plate so I can cram as many images into here as I can. But here's this stone one right here, done in a couple different sizes, can be used alone or in conjunction with one another. And here's another one's like this. The gazebo, done in a couple different sizes here. And I don't know, I felt like I wanted to go a little bit larger, but, you know, having something like this smaller, and then you can have like it could be like a near shoreline type of thing coming in from the left-hand side, kind of off the page. I'd put a few more rocks or something in here. But can you imagine, see, things like this, these types of objects on like a real still pond, maybe this one would be in the distance, and then you can put those like floating lanterns, you know, like this. Maybe these ones should have been on the same plate together. But like the ski right here, and you can have these illuminated floating lanterns like in this area like that. So, or in the distance, or these lanterns right here can go along with the warm light coming out of, the campfires too. The lanterns would probably be closer to us. And yeah, okay. So, anyways, and then Dry Creek as opposed to Water Creek. There's a lot of water things, and anytime I ever did anything, it always represented like flowing water. But like in a landscape backyard or something like that, or just a dry creek out in nature somewhere, in the off season. Very reminiscent of California. Those creeks are running for like a month, or a week or whatever, after those rains. So there's that, and again these figures like this. So I thought I had a book on the pictorialist, but I started looking around. I couldn't find it, but I thought I had the Anne Brigman one. But the these little figures like this standing along a shoreline or something like that, or underneath the moonlight, would be really fun. I thought. The women on swings. I made these ones a little bit smaller because they can go along. You can do this right here. This is like the perfect example of it. I'd have these overhanging. This is my concept of it right now. People go in and they do all kinds of other amazing things, but putting like some clouds or something in the background, and then these trees, overhanging tree limbs or something like that, and then you have these figures kind of like swinging like that, and you can have them as long as you want. You just extend, the ropes or chains or something like that, however high you want it to go. Okay, but I see it like as doing something really whimsical and having like celestial things in the background, the Milky Way or something like that, with those little swing, like that girl swinging right there. I think it'd be a really kind of a powerful, whimsical element. Speaking of kind of emotional, kind of type of context in there. So you can do all types of things like that. I think it'd be nice and dreamy, but, dreamy types of, settings or something like that. Here's this, this girl with the lantern right here. Can you imagine her walking down some road? You can do it where it's just kind of like a really romantic type of setting or something like that, or you can make it like a horror scene. You know what I mean? I think that these things could be like that. These people like this could just be like out in nature. Like those pictorialist photographers in the late 18th, early 19th century. They're often in these types of positions, or laying down like in a knot of a tree or something like that. But they tried to make these real dreamy types of compositions, being done in photography. So there were a lot of times, I guess they were, one of the things that they were kind of taken out of focus a little bit. So they were a little bit softer looking. And that's something that I'm often kind of talking about in scenic stamping, kind of creating these kind of softer areas within the piece, because that kind of conveys a certain type of emotional feeling, rather than having everything crisp within a visual. But just things, gazing at things like that, in the spirit of it, the wind or something like that, with the flowing dresses, and it's just someone out in a blanket at night. Here's another dog. And I don't know, these ones right here, just some kids like running through a park or something like that. Their family's out for the day, and they're going out running around in a open field or something like that. But these kites like this are a really fun, I thought, excuse to put in any type of color within a scene. You know what I mean? I don't know if I like have a certain type of whatever, magenta and hot pink in here or something like that. But then you throw this element of a kite in there, and you can do it any type of color you want, where probably, that kite could be like the focal point of an 11 by 17 scene or something like that. If you have it all kind of greens and, blues or something like that out in the outdoors at high noon or something like that, and there's a little kid flying a red kite or something like that, it's going to be a really powerful visual, I thought. So little kids looking at things too. The footprints going back in the distance like that, for a beach type of setting, or just alone. It's more kind of without kind of figures at the end of it. I made it where that little size like that fits a lot of the things, like hikers and backpackers and people walking off in the distance or something like that for that. But you can also just have that on a beachside type of thing with no one out there, and it becomes a little more of a whatever contemplative type of thing. Perfect for like a little quote stamp. Footprints in the sand, with a, some kind of like powerful, or poetic, word stamp would go with it really would. But I see these things like this too. These things like this, I think they're really evocative. I'm trying to make it at least, that. But I think these ones, a lot of these would really work well with, your different types of words, quote, phrase stamps that you have out there, from whatever. Anyway, all right. So those are the new plates coming out. They're not out yet. I sent them in. They're kind of, they've been shipped from my engraver, and can't wait to get them in. And, they've been doing really well in terms of like retaining like the tightest of details and the latest engravings. They've always been really good, my thing, but I've gotten like a lot more detailed on some of my pieces lately. Which I'd kind of held back sometimes in the past from previous engravers, but I don't know, I haven't really been pushing it so much, but lately I have been, like with that tight detail like in there. It's such crazy detail in there in terms of that, the open spaces within like that area, but I don't know, the engraver seems to be able to handle it with no problem, so hopefully we get those nice transitioning tones in there for a really good glow. Anyway, let's see. Let's see here. I was playing with the new stamps I got yesterday. I think I can save it and just make another bookmark. I love the bookmark formats. Those are like the ultimate, whatever, slim lines, but kind of pushing it a little bit more, huh? Oh, hello and goodbye to Laura. I just joined in. Let's see. I want to make a reflection card. It really does doesn't it, Mickey? If you haven't stamped on top of the metallics before, just do a couple impressions. And I always have to do that. Well, I don't always. I should do it, but sometimes if I don't stamp on metallics for a while, and so it's like, okay, my what usually happens is, okay, if I don't do a metallic card for a while with stays on, it's like I have to re-ink my stays on pad, so it's like a really juicy stays on pad. I should under ink it a little bit, where it's a little bit medium dry, and then when I stamp on there, sometimes it's like I don't have the touch, right away. You do like 3 impressions, you'll probably get it, but you want to test it where you stamp it out and hold a little bit, but you don't want to hold. There's like a window, a sweet spot in there, of between, I don't know how many seconds. It depends on how wet your pad is and what metallic you're stamping on, but just find the sweet spot in terms of how long you should hold it down for that ink to kind of start setting up a little bit, but not dry, where it's like stuck. Sometimes I've held down for too long. It's like the stamp and paper feel like they're glued to each other, and then when I peel it off, I peeled off a lot of the ink. That ink came off with the stamp, so you want to lift off when it's still a little bit moist. I mean, it's not like the window isn't like, oh my God, I missed that half second in there or something like that. It's, it's probably like 5 seconds or something like that, or I don't know, 3 or 4 seconds, but, kind of get the feel of it a little bit and you'll get it, And like I said, your test piece of paper too that you do it on, you can just wipe it off, with the stays on cleaner. I don't know what Linda said back up there, whatever she did with the alcohol. Lantern Girl. Oh, the Lantern Girl in the Graveyard. See, you're already thinking like ahead there, Linda, with the cemetery. That would be perfect in there. Yeah, the lantern with the graveyard. Those lanterns up in like a dead kind of limb hanging over too would be really good. Yeah, we were really Linda and I, when was it? A couple of years ago, huh? With the monster maps, we expanded on our on the horror aspect of scenic stamping. The horror, the niche genre within the scenic stamping world. But yeah, she would be perfect in a walking through a cemetery or something like that. Or you can imagine, like doing something like this too. It's like these people are walking along like this, and he's not aware of it. This guy's kind of looking that way because you can see the camp, but you put like a little zombie over here or something like that too. You know, I wouldn't want to put the kids with the zombies. Maybe the kids are the zombies. All right, folks. Thanks so much for joining in on the Friday night live stream. Here again are the pieces stamped in there. Just kind of going in here, like again, like a super basic compositional foundation right here with the meadow and trees right here, but just really changing up and playing around with things. We've talked about this a gazillion times in the past, but doing these things like this is really fun to do too. You stamp out the same kind of foundational, whatever number of images that you want to do it in, and even doing it in representing different seasons is really fun. It's kind of it's a fun challenge, where you can think of some different color schemes and maybe some foregrounds that you want to put in there. Some deciduous trees or leaves or something like that. Fall, you can do all kinds of things with different colors and falling leaves or something like that. These are those dried leaves right here. These are really fun. Speaking of the reflection cards, laying down some of those three-dimensional types of things on that piece of foil because it really looks three-dimensional that way. See, it's hard for me, but the stamps make it easy in the videos. Got it. What I would call a clean, stamped, simple. You can do clean, stamped, and simple too. I tend to fill things in, but I really love the look of just stamping out, scenic stamping imagery, a la the spirit of like you ever watch those Winnie the Pooh cartoons, back in the 70s or something like that, that replayed. But you just have like one image or something like that, but there's space in between, or like writing in between or something like that. I forget what I called that, but it has a really simplistic look to it and clean. Deanna Tubsadio just did a bunch of those, like a series of them, just with like two images on there. But I really love that look as well. And that's kind of in the spirit of like some of those like Chinese painting ones too, where there's just a bunch of space in between it. We tend to put like more things in between, like a really isolated image or something like that. But the isolated image ones really emphasize the design, though, the individual design, which I really like a cabin or something like that, or something like that would be really fun. Or just a tree, with some fall leaves falling off of it. Like this one right here would be just a fun tree like this. You just stamp it up here and you put maybe a little bit of a shadow down here, and then you put some of these three-dimensional little fall leaves on the base of it. Would be really fun and effective and very graphic or something like that. I need to do more of those sometimes because I really love the look of that when I see people do it. Let's see right here. Yeah, slippery for sure. All right. And if you have any questions, if anyone ever has, a lot of people don't like to do this, but if you ever have any questions or something like that, or it's like, oh, I think I messed up. And I always say, I think, people think they messed up, but oftentimes, 99% of the times, when someone thinks they messed up on a scene, now I'm not talking about like, oh my God, I dropped a stamp and the whole thing, like just, stamped over the whole thing. But a lot of times, like, I don't know if it's 99%, but it's probably that, 95 and up. But I usually think more, like 99, literally, when I see people that think they messed up on a scene or something like that, even if they got down to the end, it's like, oh my God, this doesn't look right. To me, it just requires like a couple more things in it. So it just, to me, it looks incomplete. But you can add on a couple different elements into it that really, brings it all together. It could be a little bit darker tones or something like that, or more focusing. It could be a lightening up of it too. So things like the pigment ink in there really kind of can save the day on a lot of my scenes still today, along with the opaques. So the paint pens and the white paint pens. I mean the white pigment ink. But I was saying to someone, if you ever get any pieces that you think, hey, you can't think of what to do with it, or you think that it just kind of looks messed up, don't toss them. And if you still can't think of something to do with it later on, you can hold them for a while. That's what usually people do. And they go back to it and they might add on it. But if it really stumps you, get them in, put them in an envelope and send them over to me. And I'll show you what to do with them, or show you what I would do with them. And that's some of the really fun things to do for me too. Because I don't know, it's like a collaborative piece, but I really like doing those ones. All right. Thanks, everyone. Hope to see you in the next Stampscapes Live.